Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We've got the team from LA84 with us this morning, Oscar Delgado and Nolan Ortiz. Good morning, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Catalyst this morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here. Thanks, John.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's all yours, Oscar, if you want to take it away. Nolan, thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks, John. So a quick shout out to Matt Gilson, who introduced me to John and shared this whole platform. So from what I've been told, John said, do whatever you want. And it's like, okay, well, that's a pretty wide lane. But from what I understand, the audience here includes golf instructors, fundraisers, golf course operators. So everyone that's got a hand in the great game of golf. So what I thought I would do here is we'll do a couple of introductions. Nolan and I will give a little background on ourselves. I'll show a quick video, and then I have a presentation prepared for you. And then Nolan is also going to talk about one of our initiatives that we've been working on. So Nolan, why don't I just turn it over to you for a minute, where you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up, sports you played.
Sure. Thanks, Oscar. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nolan Ortiz, and I'm the Director of Grants and Programs with the LA84 Foundation. I started with the organization back in 2015 as a program officer and worked my way up from there. I am a native Angelino. I was born in Linwood, raised in Norwalk, and grew up, a sports junkie literally from the time I was born. I tried to get my hands into everything I could. I tried to play everything I could. Like most kids, I think in my neighborhood, I was growing up playing baseball or basketball or soccer. One thing that's interesting, though, that I will share is the one sport that I wasn't introduced to, or I didn't have around me growing up, was the game of golf. And that's something that I wish I could have been introduced to sooner, and it is something that I'm hoping we can do for more kids through some of the work that we're doing. I'll pause there.
Hello, everyone. Oscar Delgado, Vice President of Partnerships and Grants, and part of the mighty team at the L84 Foundation. Like Nolan, I'm also a novelty from Los Angeles, born and raised. And I did leave for about a decade and came back. I grew up in the northeast part of Los Angeles. Very passionate about the work at L84. I was impacted as I participated in a program when I was a child, and then was fortunate to have access to a facility in the northeast part of LA, where it set me on a healthy trajectory where I was able to compete in springboard and platform diving in high school, and then it paid for college. Ended up going to graduate school at Indiana and trained for a couple of Olympic Games, where I came up a little short, but I competed in 2 world championships. So I was fortunate to be one of those kids that happened to be blessed by the good work and the good people at LA4 Foundation. So I'm proud to say that I'm one of the 3+ million kids that have been impacted by what we do. So with that said, let me, I imagine people are having their morning coffee right now as they're watching us, Nolan. Let me start with this quick minute video, or minute plus, and it'll, I think, give a nice framework to the work that we do and where we currently stand. I hope everyone can see the screen there.
You wouldn't step in the ring with an arm tied behind your back. You wouldn't step to the plate with 2 strikes. You wouldn't start a game down by 14 points. That wouldn't be fair. In life, like sports, fairness should be fundamental. But for most kids of color and families, life is not fair. 15 million youth live in poverty in the U.S. Kids of color are twice as likely to live without enough park space. And schools in underserved neighborhoods are defunding sports programs. How can our children play fair if they can't play at all? Change starts with play equity, a social justice movement to bring sports to kids left behind by the system. Sports breaks down barriers, improves kids' health, academics, and boosts self-esteem. Change communities for good, one child at a time. There's room for hope. Let's give all kids the vital human right to play. No child should start from behind. Never again. Join the Play Equity movement. Spread the word. Donate. Let's level the playing field together.
So I think that, Nolan, you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So that video is basically, it showed the next chapter of the LA84 Foundation. So I know that we got a lot of different people in this audience that are part of the golf community. Some know LA84 really well, and I think there's some folks that don't know about who we are, what we do. So let me, I guess, just to spend a couple minutes on the history of LA84 and how we got to where we are. I think that always gives a nice good framework. So I think it's also in line with this week as the Olympic Games are getting started in Tokyo. So Los Angeles has a rich history with the Olympic Games. 1932 was the first time LA hosted the Olympic Games and made a profit of about $1 million back then. Those games really were the games where there was a physical transformation for the games. It was the first time there was an athlete's village. It was the first time there was a photo finish for track and field. If you didn't know this, equestrian, the sport of equestrian took place at the Coliseum and at Riviera Country Club. So there's a rich history with the 32 games and a lot of physical firsts. Fast forward to 1984. 1984 was really a financial transformation. And that financial transformation, we saw it in the form of very disciplined ticket sales, disciplined, nobody got a free ticket, disciplined sponsorship and partnership sales, merchandise. So there was a lot of things that we know in the sports world today, in the pro sports world. I could point to 1984. It was revolutionary. Peter Uberoff led the charge. He is a current member of our board. And so the games were a huge success. And with that, there was a big chunk of dollars that was left over. Just over $230 million was left over. And so we are a legacy organization. Now those $230+ what was done was 60% went to the United States Olympic Committee, which is now the USOPC, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. 40% went to start our foundation. And so the foundation, the legacy, it doesn't say anywhere that the legacy has to be kids in sports. It could be anything else, but that happened to be the legacy of 1984. And so Nolan, I don't want to be talking at the audience this whole time. And so I do have a slideshow, but I think you hear our shtick every day is we invite people to our campus. We're working from home right now, Nolan's background actually is a picture of our campus. And actually that's the Olympic flame that burns in our courtyard. It's the DNA helix of an athlete. But in addition to the dollars, if you've never been to our foundation, we do have a beautiful library with 2 full-time librarians and a treasure of artifacts. We have just about every Olympic torch from every Olympic game. So we're located south of the 10 freeway on basically Western and Adams, so near USC. But Nolan, as far as just the history of the games, and did I miss any details there before I jump into the formal presentation?
No, I mean, unless you want to share some personal stories about '84 and what that was like. I mean, I remember the '84 games for myself. I mean, I was a young kid, and I remember when they were running with the torch, and they actually ran along one of the adjacent streets near the block I lived on. And so I remember a big crowd of people gathering along just to cheer on the torch runners as they were going by. And still not really understanding the magnitude of this type of event, and it would be until I was older. But just remembering those types of memories as a kid, and now seeing the excitement coming back, leading up to 28 is really just kind of makes this what it's all about.
For the fundraisers on this call, for the people that work in development, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from '84. I didn't know this till I started working at the foundation, that the torch relay run had started in the 1936 games, the Nazi games in Germany. But in '84, they really monetized that, where each leg of the journey with the Olympic torch, basically selling that to different companies. So that was just another small pipeline of dollars that came into to the big pot and made it a success. So let me, and I'm sure people that are in this audience remember and have some memories of '84 if you lived in Southern California. I have a formal presentation here. Nolan, I'm going to ask you to jump in with me. Let me see here. Okay, so Nolan, you can see that, right?
Yes.
So LA84 Foundation, as I said, was born out of the surplus of the 1984 games. And so we had the pot of money. We have this beautiful campus, which the story there, the long story is that Peter Ubroth had obtained a collection from the Helms family. The Helms family, if you know who they are, they had a bakery. They had a bakery in Culver City. The Olympic rings are still there above the building, but he had obtained this giant treasure, and so he needed a place to put this treasure. And so our foundation basically operated like a museum for about a year. And so we have the campus, this treasure of Olympic artifacts and sports history, and then the dollars. So, as I said, we're the legacy of the '84 games. Our focus is to transform lives, to get kids life ready through the vehicle that is sport. The U.S. Olympic Committee, they're worried about the medal count, and they're focused on the elite level athletes. I think Nolan, being part of the grants and programs department, he sees this every day, every other day, as he's talking to the folks that are on the front line that are trying to get these kids to be better athletes in a structured sport environment. But really what we're focused on is to get kids ready for life. If they get a scholarship to college, great. If they go on to being the next Venus or Serena Williams, who did participate in one of our programs, they benefited just like I did. But the video that I did show talked about the Play Equity Fund. And so the Play Equity Fund is our public charity arm. We have a whole separate website. All of you are in front of your computer, so if you want, you can pull up that website. So we have LA84.org and we have playequityfund.org. LA84 is a private foundation. Play Equity Fund is our charity arm. So when I joined the LA84 Foundation about 5 years ago, our president, Renata Simrall, she had taken over about 5.5 years ago. We started a movement back then, and Nolan remembers, it was the Playing Forward movement. And the Playing Forward movement evolved into the Play Equity movement, which then evolved into the Play Equity Fund. So that fund is really, we're raising dollars, not because we need money to turn the lights on and pay the bills, but it's because we have realized and accepted that the issue that exists in youth sports and youth development, we can't do it alone. It sounds like we have a lot of dollars and we do support a lot of organizations. But the last 30 years, 30 plus years, we've impacted over 3 million kids. I think we were approaching 3.5 million, over 2,000 different organizations. And this is where Nolan talks every day to people about how we focus on school-based municipalities. We partner with them with different programs and community-based organizations. In addition to supporting kids, we also support coaches, and we do that in a few different ways. We do, sometimes if people call us up and they need some X's and O's tutoring coaching on maybe non-traditional sports, we can do that, but we do collaborate and partner up with organizations such as PCA is one of them, Positive Coaching Alliance, in addition to Coaching Core.
Up to Us is another one.
Up to Us is another one, exactly. Thank you, Nolan. So when it comes to the support of coaches, it's done in a few different ways. And I always remind people that sports evolves, all sports evolves, the whole sport industry evolves, to the point that tug of war once was an Olympic event. As we go into these Olympic games in Tokyo in the next couple, we're going to see new sports like surfing and skateboarding. So sport is continuously evolving. Another point you'll see here is the support that we give to LAUSD middle schools. The reason we do that is that's our sweet spot. We do use data to point to the fact that there's a giant drop-off for kids, especially young ladies, at the middle school age. Nolan, do you want to, you're always talking about all these things, so as you're looking at some of these bullet points I drew up, any comments there?
Definitely want to add, Oscar, thank you. So, Oscar mentioned how sports evolves. I would add to that by saying that, LA84 is an organization in terms of its strategy, in terms of its approach to trying to work and help bring sports to as many youth as possible has evolved as well. And so, I think when the organization first started and it began its grant-making program, it was simply good enough to, find organizations that offered sports programs and put equipment in kids' hands. And, we were, as long as we were reaching kids and counting how many kids were being served, that kind of checked the box for us. But I think over time, as Oscar mentioned, we've tried to look at data, tried to become more informed to understand how we can be more strategic and be more impactful with our support. And so, we now, I think, consider ourselves to be a sports-based youth development funder. And so what that means is that, we are trying to support organizations that are using sport as a vehicle to help youth become productive, happy, solid quality citizens and human beings. And, speaking to this audience, I mean, that's embedded in the principles of golf itself. It's a very gentlemanly game as it's been traditionally viewed, even though it's now played by everybody. That said, to Oscar's point about middle schools, you'll often hear whenever L84 is mentioned, you'll usually hear the term play equity or closing the play equity gap. And so that aligns with part of our strategy in terms of serving schools. when we are talking about play equity and the play equity gap that exists, that can be defined as barriers to access. And those barriers can take shape in different ways. It could be, no transportation. It could be no play site. It could be no program. You could have all those things, but have no coach. So all of those things are barriers to access. And so one of the big barriers is having kids get to a place where they can play, where they can participate consistently. And so the idea for serving youth at schools is we're meeting them where they are. They spend most of their day there, and it's easiest to try to be able to reach the highest number of kids by bringing programs to their school sites. And so that's why we partner with LAUSD. We work with a lot of after-school program providers that have partnerships with a variety of districts throughout Southern California and the 8 counties that we serve. And so that helps us be more efficient and be more impactful in being able to reach kids by meeting them where they are.
Great points, Nolan. I'm conscious of the people that are in this audience, and I do tip my hat off to you because I feel like this platform, as John explained to me, is just one form that this group is continuously educating themselves. On a nice weekday early morning, you're listening to people like us that have a different perspective. When it comes to this work, as I switch to the next slide here, our game plan. So we believe that there is, as our leader Renata Simmel says, there's a crisis in plain sight. And that is that there is inequities in youth sports and youth development. Sports, as I said, my personal story, I had a healthy trajectory in sport and I had access. Sport looks very different for kids that look like me. For African-American kids, for girls, it's sports has become expensive. It's not just, that's one barrier to entry. I myself took up golf about 2.5 years ago. And Nolan, once we're done with this, we'll talk about an initiative we have related to the game of golf, and I'll explain how we got there. But yes, I think everyone here knows the stigma that exists with golf. You're trying to figure out how to get new golfers and new players, and it's possible, but I think you need to have a game plan. So our game plan here is having a vision, our theory of change, the way we've positioned our brand. As I'm looking at this, Nolan, I kind of laugh because I know the amount of hours and emails and meetings it takes to actually do this. But we've figured out where our priorities are, whether it's the overarching plan for the organization or it's an event, which I'm tasked with putting on at different levels. What we do is we try to incubate, scale, and then lead. And when we do incubate something, we're really trying to have a proof of concept so that then it grows into something bigger the following year. So it is a long play when it comes to this. But there are different strategies and tactics that we've used to get to where we are. When it comes to getting dollars, and Nolan used the word partnerships. Partnerships, they come in different forms, right? There's our grantee partners that are helping us close a play equity gap, and then the meetings I'm in where it's corporate partners that have a sense of social responsibility and they want to give dollars to us or organizations that work with kids and that are part of the sport ecosystem. A lot of the questions look the same, but just sharing this with you, as this is a snapshot of this game plan. And this game plan, this has evolved a bit over the last probably year plus, right, Nolan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was sharing this just to give a taste of what it is that we're doing. The programs that we have hosted, whether it's the whole program or just the final part of the program, the culminating piece, we've accepted we're not scared to evolve and to change it, whether it's an aquatics program or a running program or bringing in a golf program, whatever it is. you have to be nimble. I think the formula for success, at least for athletes, for myself when I was training for the Olympics, was you have to eat well, you have to sleep well, and you have to exercise. And so I think we have to take care of ourselves to be able to produce this sort of work. So this is, I took this slide because this is something that I use frequently as I'm talking to folks, and it's, the asking of the dollars, and really sustainability is really important. A lot of companies, entities have figured out that, okay, I want to give my dollars, but I want to see that long-term impact. I don't want to just influence. So being able to make it attractive, and we've been using some of these buzzwords for a while. I think equity, for one, we've been using that word for a while, but it's definitely a buzzword now. And so as I approach and we approach organizations, partners, whoever they may be, we keep telling them that we're a legacy organization. We are the gift that keeps on giving. And so we try to leverage our partners as much as we can. We're sure what our assets are. And so we are continuously mindful of what our mission is, and we know that there is this gap that exists. And so the way we can close it is by collaborating or partnering with local government or school districts. Nolan, do you have anything to add there?
Just that, again, so when you consider, let me take a step back. So just so you guys understand with respect to the communities that we're trying to reach, geographically speaking, we work with the 8 southernmost counties in California. So we go up as far north as Santa Barbara County, all the way down to San Diego on the border, as far east as the Arizona border where Calexico is. It's always fun when you get grant applications from a place where you have to look it up on the map because you've never heard of that little town before. And so, the point here is that each of these communities has specific needs, and each of these organizations working in these communities are trying to do the best they can to serve their constituency in the best way they can. And, we are trying to always take all of those factors into account when we're working with organizations, when we're evaluating their proposals to us, to find ways where we can help them be their best selves. And, that also requires us to continually reflect internally to make sure that we're doing the best we can. And I think, like anything else, right, you always want to start with the standard of just what are best practices and how can we put that forward into use every day.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that, Nolan. So on the LA84 side, specifically on the grant side, the funding side, and the support that we give to coaches, the footprint is Southern California. That was the footprint of the 1984 Olympic Games. Now, the Play Equity Fund, which at the moment has its own website, it's got 2 employees. It'll have 4 employees by the end of the year. There is a lot more room for creativity and no geographic restrictions. Now, we're realistic that, even though we have that vehicle that can do a project in Salt Lake City, Utah, as an example, like we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but it does allow us to eventually be able to go beyond the Southern California region. And so it's great to have that vehicle. But yes, on the LA84 side, all that work that we've done has been focused on Southern California. So there's the challenge, right? Like why do we do this? Why are we all here? So just we took some data points from, we have a lot of data. We use data to make our decisions. But why does sport matter? One data point that has really stuck out with me is that high school graduation rates. So high school athletes are 6% more likely to graduate from a 4-year college. So I think the graduation rate is 70+%. So basically 7 out of 10 kids in LAUSD graduate from high school, while student athlete population is above 90%. So basically 9 out of 10 kids. So there's a correlation there between graduation rates and participation in sport. And with that said, I always question why decision makers will cut PE or will cut programming when it comes to things like athletics. In addition to that, other data points, 60% of American children have inadequate levels of cardiorespiratory fitness. And so that's something that I got from the American Heart Association. So play equity is a social justice issue, in addition to just the challenges that exist with getting kids to move. So as I said before, it's a crisis in plain sight. So this is real as you take a look at this slide. So kids ages 8 to 18 spend over 7.5 hours a day using entertainment media. Video games, that is evolving. There's definitely a conversation that's out there on if that should be in the Olympics. The video game playing is filling up stadiums, but there are people in that space that are conscious and trying to get kids to move their bodies. 48% of kids in LA Unified are obese or overweight. Nolan, you talk to people on the front line and coaches. You want to add on this?
So, I want to bring up a study that was a little closer to home. LA84 conducted a 3-year study with Claremont Graduate University to evaluate. The goal here over the 3-year study was to really try to understand how youth benefit from their participation in sports. And the particular age focus here was across the middle school years. And as you might expect, the findings in terms of impact over this 3-year study determined that, again, youth were much healthier. So in terms of physical fitness, there were robust benefits. There were higher fitness test pass rates. The youth consistently outperformed non-participants. And I think the most important takeaway in terms of overall youth development was, like anything else, kids realized that this was something that they wanted to make a part of their lifestyle. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help build habits that can become permanent to help them lead more healthier lives. And so, interestingly enough, youth began to report that they enjoyed fitness more, worked out more because of their inclusion in a sports program. And that was surprising to me because, to be honest with you, that was always a part I hated when I played sports as a kid. Running was always a punishment. Conditioning was usually done to us as a form of punishment. And so to understand and read that kids, through their participation, were beginning to enjoy, conditioning, physical conditioning and fitness was surprising. Another key outcome was the social emotional development, going back to the point I made earlier about us trying to evolve into a sports-based youth development organization. Youth sports participants reported that they experienced a number of social emotional benefits. Specifically, they felt more connected to their school. They had a greater sense of pride to their participation in sports programs. They were able to develop more self-discipline. They also were able to show examples of having a higher level of growth mindset. They were open to feedback. They were open to guidance that would help them become better, and that carried over into other aspects of their life. So those are just some of the smaller key points that I wanted to bring up in relation to the benefits of participating in sports and highlighting why inactivity and not participating consistently is just a problem that is often overlooked.
Well said, Nolan. Yeah, that report that we've conducted for LA County, it's a good micro look at youth sports and youth development. So basically our backyard. A lot of times we're looking nationally, but most of the people on this webinar are locally. They're in Southern California. So again, addressing the challenge that we face, this is real. I would ask that everyone really take the time and just look at these numbers. 15 million kids in America live in poverty. Like that's real. 77% of kids in LA Unified School District qualify for a free or reduced lunch program, which is one way of measuring the population, right? It's not but it's definitely it's eye-opening. 53% of boys who do not play sports are from households with incomes of 35K or less. Nationally, 69% of all girls who do not play sports live in households with incomes of 35,000 or less. So as we talk about trying to make sure that we have equity, and there's definitely a big push to try to get girls to participate and to not drop off at that middle school age. Nolan, thoughts, comments on this?
Yeah, so, one other point I wanted to make in reference to, the kids that are living in poverty and are coming, looking for ways to just improve their situation. Interestingly enough, another outcome that was determined through that study was just the attendance period. The attendance of kids who played sports programs was higher than those who did not. And so that in and of itself, by simply being present, led to more positive outcomes across the board for kids. And so I think that's just another key indicator of the draw and the magnitude and the power of participating in a sports program and what it can do for kids. Getting them motivated to come to school, especially when they're dealing with maybe an unstable home life or just other issues that make it difficult for them. Coming to school and participating in the sports program is that outlet that many times changes their trajectory.
Yeah, I hope some of this is the audience. I know a lot of people here are focused on fundraising and trying to get dollars. I frequently say this, and Nolan knows I say this in the office, and it's very short, very blunt, but people give money to feel more joy or feel less pain, and that's the reality of it. We are trying to demonstrate the joy and the power of sport, but as you are talking to your funders, your high net worth individuals that are giving dollars, it's important to have perspective on the state of Southern California, our city, our state, our country, and these numbers don't lie. And next year, I believe it's next year, will be the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and so there have been big strides in the last few decades, but we're still not there, and that's why we're focused on this equity gap that exists. We've talked about minorities and girls. Just some more stats. African American, Latino have the lowest participation rates and the highest obesity rates. Same thing with by age 14, girls drop out of sports twice the rate of boys. There's definitely not enough female coaches out there, and I've being new to the game of golf, I've seen that there's not that many female instructors. So middle school is our sweet spot. We do some work with high school, but that's our sweet spot because that's where the data is pointing us towards. So I think Nolan touched on this a bit. It's the different buckets that exist when where kids can be affected, right? There's the social and emotional development. We talked about the fact that we support coaching and not just the X's and O's, right, Nolan? It's the whole holistic part of having a mentor in your life. The academic development, I touched on that, and the fact that high school athletes are more likely to graduate. And then obviously I think all of us know the physical health and nutrition benefits that come from sport. I myself, I like playing golf and I like playing 9 holes and I like walking the course. So that's been that was my outlet during the last year and a half. So as we said, our solution is that there should be play for everyone. It's a social justice issue. Actually, let me go back to that photograph. The photograph, it doesn't play well in this presentation, but this was a pretty special moment. It was Nolan. It was from our Run for Fun. And the last few years we were tasked with that culminating event. But this picture is always really powerful, where you see the support that one of the kids is getting because finish the race. So, so we're looking to just bring the opportunity wherever we can in Southern California, whether it's in school, after school, and to all kids. So this is, Nolan, do you want to maybe just talk a little bit about just kind of how we've found success and what are like the really important things from your perspective to trying to create access? You know, I know we always, equipment support and coaching support is really important, but what are those other facts and variables that you see from your seat?
Sure. So, you know, a key component that comes into play when you're talking about sports-based youth development, or just really any program in general, right, is you always want to ask yourself, well, how do you know what you're doing is working? And how do you know that this is a success? And that success is kind of a hot button term, because you can ask 5 different people and you may get 5 different answers. And so for us, we really try to work with our partners to understand what their outcomes, what their desired outcomes and goals are. And so, you know, what we're trying to do is help build their capacity to meet those goals. And so, you know, coming at it from our priorities and our perspective, we're trying to see what we can do to help build organizations' capacity to be able to serve more kids. Or if not serve more kids, improve the experience of those kids that they are serving in their program. And so our funding approach is very specific. It's programmatic in nature, and we categorize it under 4 areas. So it's usually personnel. And so ideally we're looking to help organizations bring on quality coaches. In addition to bringing on quality coaches, we also want to help train these coaches so that they are better prepared to deliver a higher level quality program. We've learned that that is really the foundation of a good, solid youth sports program. If you've got a coach who understands what they're doing, understands the appropriate temperament that you need to have when you're talking to kids, that sets the tone for success. You know, I always joke that, you know, for me growing up, many of the coaches that I encountered kind of informally went to that Bobby Knight school of instruction. So it was very much fear-led, you know, a lot of yelling. And these days, that's really not the way, that just doesn't really fly anymore. And I know that in golf, it's different altogether. But the point here is that whether it's golf or any other sports program, you want to be able to have the right mindset to initially engage youth, because if you don't have that, then you're not going to really be able to get much more done. And so then from there, we want to be able to help work with organizations to build their capacity, whether it's providing them more equipment or covering some of the costs that make it difficult for kids to participate, whether that's registration fees, some sort of league fees that present a barrier that prevent kids from being able to join. We want to help find a way to resolve that or reduce or if not eliminate that. And another issue that has surfaced that has been a big challenge for many organizations is that of transportation. Where, you know, and I know that's a common one in golf, right? You've got to pick kids up and take them to a golf course, take them to, you know, to play in a match or a tournament. And so transportation is a big issue. So we've tried to come in and try to help organizations with their transportation challenges, again, so that they can be in a better position to be able to reach the kids that they're trying to work with and just help improve the experience overall. So those are just some of the specific things that we try to focus on. I mentioned coaching or personnel, athlete expenses, transportation. Another thing is this, obviously Oscar mentioned the equipment, that's kind of the given. But the last thing is we talked about fees for youth to be able to participate, but for many organizations, you also have fees to be able to utilize space, facility fees, rental fees, permit fees, that oftentimes can be a huge burden to organizations. We're willing to come in and try to help you guys with that as well, to try to, again, enable you to be able to put together and deliver the program that you envision.
I'm gonna just doing a little time check here. So our partnerships, we have a few formal partnerships that live under the Play Equity Fund umbrella. Angel City Soccer, the new women's soccer team that's going to be taking the field in 2022. I hope everyone here supports them, as they are the newest team in Los Angeles. They just turned one year old yesterday. In addition to that partnership, we have one with the Dodgers Foundation. We've had that one for a while, and we support and triangulate in a few different ways with them. As mentioned before, and I keep repeating it, we're arguably the most significant youth sports legacy in the world. And so now that there are major sporting events coming to Los Angeles every year, people turn to us. And if there are legacy dollars, we've done things where we help manage or serve as a compass, whether it's the Super Bowl that's coming next year or the NBA All-Star game that came. But we do have a partnership with Riviera Country Club. And so that partnership started a couple years ago, and we started a initiative called the Golf for All initiative. So Nolan, if just doing again a little time check, because I wanted to open it up back to John and for questions, but maybe just a quick snapshot of what that looks like.
Sure. So the Golf for All initiative, as Oscar mentioned, is an initiative that we have in partnership with the Riviera Country Club, as well as the Los Angeles Sports and Entertainment Commission. And what brought this partnership on is that Olympic golfers are going to be competing on the world stage at the Riviera Country Club in 2028. And so this initiative is focused on leveling the playing field and providing greater access to golf for all kids. Simply put, Golf for All is intended to grow interest in the game of golf by creating greater access to it. And so we intend to achieve this goal through two programmatic strategies, the first of which we call Give Golf a Go, and the second we are calling the Road to Riviera. And so the first programmatic strategy, Give Golf a Go, is seeking to engage youth and their families that are not yet involved in the game of golf at all. And so we want to try to provide fun and non-traditional methods, ideas to expose youth to the game. And so we're trying to target populations who are underrepresented in the game with a specific focus on socioeconomic, geographic, ethnic, and gender diversity. So we were able to successfully get this program started, or this first component of the program started back in 2019. We had a series of introductory golf clinics with some incredible partners. And each clinic provided different youth from different parts of LA the opportunity to be exposed to the game. Again, going back to my first comments earlier, I was one that I never even walked on a golf course until I was in my 20s. And I didn't know anything about it, didn't understand the game. And so, a lot of the thought behind this came to try to just simply introduce the game to kids that are likely not to be around it in their ecosystem. And, and not just that, but once you walk onto a course, if you don't really know anything about the game, I don't think you would know where to start. I mean, you look around, you might have a driving range, you've got the greens where you want to work on your putting or your short game, then you have the actual course itself. And so, most golf courses are pretty quiet. And so again, you're not sure, it can be, I think, overwhelming and intimidating. And so the goal for this is to try to eliminate that feeling of just uncertainty and I don't know where to go or where to start. And so, I think the overarching theme here, as is with anything, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is the vital component to any sports program, this program included, is you want kids to be involved, you want them to be engaged, it needs to be fun. And if you make it fun, then everything else will, you can build from there. And so that, again, was another key point that we wanted to take into consideration. We wanted this to be fun, a positive and fun experience that would likely increase the opportunity or the likelihood that kids would want to continue to play. The second component is what we're calling the Road to Riviera. And this is intended to deepen the engagement of kids that are already playing. So these are kids that have already been introduced to the game, that are already playing. We want to elevate their level of engagement to a point where they can maybe even consider playing it into adulthood and make it a permanent part of their life. And so the area that we're targeting is high school aged youth. And we're trying to basically make it sort of an enhanced player development program. I liken it to sort of like when you go to school and you're taking a math or science class and you're maybe struggling and you go get some tutoring to help you with that math and science. I think that's what we're trying to do with this Rotary Riviera program, is give these kids some additional coaching, some additional help to help them improve their performance at the high school level. And so I'll pause there.
Nolan, well done. So as the audience can hear and see, as we chat about all these different things that we're doing, it definitely takes a strong staff that's knowledgeable about all these things. So John, let me turn it back over to you. I don't know if there's any questions or what the usual wrap up is for this series.
Certainly. Gentlemen, thank you very much. On behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, thanks for putting this together this morning. There are definitely a few questions that have come in. Nolan, the initiative Road to Riviera, could you kind of circle back and talk a little bit specifically about Riviera's actual role in that initiative?
Yeah, this came about again through conversations. Well, so again, as I mentioned, the Riviera Country Club is going to be the site where the Olympics, where the golf portion of the Olympics are going to take place. And so, you know, the hope there is that, you know, we can begin to develop the next generation of Olympic golfers here in LA in our backyard. And so Riviera and Michael Yamaki, who was really the man behind the development of this program, wanted to find a way to be able to expand the reach of the game to serve more kids, to create more diversity.
Yeah, it's John, I would just add that it's looking ahead the next 5, 10, 15 years of what this sport will look like and what our market, our local market looks like, right? We have access to all these different golf courses and what is the future of golf? And correct me if I'm wrong, I think before the pandemic, golf was, you know, on a down, and now it's definitely, at least from my experience, right? I took up golf just a few years ago, and now it's challenging to get a tee time, and there's shortage of equipment and push carts and golf clubs and everything. So, you know, I think it's just looking at the macro, the bigger picture, and what the future of the great game is. And just to add, Nolan, you know, he touched on the stigma that exists in golf. I trained for 2 Olympic Games in a sport that has a lot of fear. And I will tell you, as I was introduced to the game, I was a little nervous. Like there is some barriers that need to be torn down to try to make the game more fun and more inviting, because it really is a great game. Oh.
In terms of, I'm sure you guys are relatively aware of the American Development Model, the ADM. In terms of this initiative rolling into golf, what are some of the other sports and successes you've had with youth sports transitioning into golf, and where do you see that going over the next 2 to 3 years?
You know, let me address that first. I will say that in this big macro youth sport industry that exists, that's really turned into like a $16+ billion industry, which includes both sides of the coin, the haves and the have-nots. Specialization has become, I believe, a problem, where kids are their parents are deciding that they need to go pro by the age of 7, right? And so it's turning into this whole thing of an unbalanced scale, which is impacting not just the kids that are in it, but also the kids that maybe decide to participate in a game later in life. So if you have someone that's 14 years old that's never participated in golf, and you have someone that's been golfing since 7 years old, and that's all they've been doing, how can that 14-year-old compete with that 7-year-old? My point being is that in the bigger picture, specialization is becoming a problem. So the encouraging kids to play and to participate in other sports is really important as far as the development of the child. Like Nolan said, our organization, when it was founded, we identified ourselves as a sports organization. And really, we realized we're not a sports organization. We're a youth development organization. And unfortunately, there are moments where I think we get caught up in our tunnel vision that, hey, I'm just trying to take care of my goals and my golf course or my club, whatever it is. But looking at the big picture, I think can help in trying to achieving one's own personal goals. But specialization is becoming a problem.
Certainly. Well, I mean, if you go back to when we were kids, it was easy to play. Each season of the year, you played a different sport. And by the time you got to the high school level, it was fair game for you to excel in any one of those. Now, with specialization, it's just like you said, if you play one sport, that's all you play. You don't have time to play any other sports because that one sport that you do play is a year-round commitment. And we see that in golf too. And it's a challenge. And I think that's one of the principles behind the American development model to break that down and slow down that pressure, because there's just so many horror stories and so many negative statistics that connotate with that.
Yeah, and a lot of the programs and organizations that we've or initiatives we've like the Golf for All model and everything, we are our foundation, our institution. We're not like as an example, Boys and Girls Club where we have a gym full of kids. So Nolan knows this very well. We work with other organizations to be able to execute these different initiatives and programs. The aquatics program that I was in growing up as a child, that's one that was spread out to the different municipalities. The Golf for All program is one where we're working with the different youth development, or excuse me, the different golf organizations in the greater LA area. So
when you talk about different venues in the LA area, do you have anything specific rolling with the LA city golf courses or moreover the LA County golf courses?
So we right now are working with LA County Golf to utilize some of their golf courses. And in the past, we have worked with LA City Golf as well to utilize their golf courses with some of our previous events. So yeah, we have partnerships with both and we're working with both. But right now, the conversations we've been having have been with the county.
And before we wrap up here, for those PGA members that are on the call, and many of you know, and Oscar, I know you're aware, we are recording this webinar and it will be uploaded to the SCPGA YouTube page and also on the Catalyst landing page on the SCPGA website. Where can we go online to gain more education?
Well, first off, I would ask everyone to take the time to look over the LA84 webpage and the Play Equity Fund webpage. Additionally, following us on social media. But if you do go on to either of those web pages, you'll see on the menu item or on the menu tab the different programs and initiatives that we're working on. In addition to the work on the grant funding side, seeing the requirements to be able to qualify for grant funding. My contact information is there, which I will tell you the one great thing about my job is I get questions on all sorts of different stuff that are in the youth sports space. But I would just say that taking a moment and actually looking at our webpage there, and also additionally our YouTube webpage. We have a lot of videos we've uploaded. Our communications team has recently organized our conversations that we've had at our summit the last few years. And some of those are really special and I think also very educational.
Fantastic. Mr. Delgado, Mr. Ortiz, that's all the time we have this morning on the Catalyst webinar. Again, thank you very, very much for taking the time to share your expertise and experience and bring awareness to the SCPGA on LA84 and all the wonderful things you guys do. particularly for youth sports. And for the attendees this morning on the Catalyst, thank you very much for supporting the Catalyst webinar series. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.